To secure a deal, a young boss asks the woman who cleans the office to act as his wife during an important dinner. What happened next that evening surprised everyone. In the vast estate of the Sterling family, luxury was a given, but warmth was scarce. Julian Sterling grew up in a world of wealth that most people could only dream of, but his heart sought something that money couldn't buy: his father's approval. With its many rooms and well-kept gardens, the house felt like a golden cage to Julian. Every smile and movement was watched carefully. Julian's dad, Victor Sterling, was a self-made millionaire with a cold look that could make anyone lose faith in themselves. He was strict in how he raised Julian and didn't give him the love and praise he desperately needed. Julian's mother, Elena, was a kind person who felt torn between her strict husband and her son's quiet cries for love. Julian, remember, discipline is the cornerstone of success. Your frivolities will not be tolerated in this household, Victor would often remark. Julian would drop his eyes and nod, hoping for just a sign of thanks. Each time, it would hurt his spirit a little more. One evening, as Julian returned from school, his backpack heavier with the weight of unshared troubles, he found his parents in the living room. Victor was reading a financial magazine while Elena knitted, her fingers moving nimbly but her eyes sad. Julian told Victor, "Dad, I got perfect scores on my math test today." He wanted to make Victor feel proud. Victor barely glanced up from his magazine. "Academic achievements are expected, not celebrated, Julian. Focus on your weaknesses, not your strengths." Elena offered Julian a weak smile, but she said nothing, afraid to stir Victor's anger. Dinner was silent. Julian ate quietly, casting glances at Victor, who seemed more interested in his food than in any conversation. Later, Julian lay in his bed, the room with its plush carpeting and designer furniture. Yet, for Julian, it felt cold, distant. He longed for a different kind of wealth, one adorned with laughter and pure love. The next day, Julian tried a different method. He chose to join the soccer team, thinking perhaps athletic prowess would endear him to Victor. After weeks of practice, Julian played in his first match, getting the winning goal. His heart swelled with hope as he invited his parents to the next game, thinking Victor might finally see him in a new light. On the game day, Julian searched the stands for familiar faces, but found none. His team won, and his teammates basked in the glory of success, their families hugging them, showering them with praise. Julian smiled, clapping along, but inside, he felt more separated than ever. Returning home, he found Victor in his study, absorbed in work. "I scored 2 goals today, Father. We won the match," Julian said, a hint of pride in his voice. Victor didn't look up. "Sports are a distraction, Julian. Your focus should be on your future, not chasing a ball on a field." Defeated, Julian withdrew to his room, the weight of his father's indifference pressing down on him. That night, under the cover of darkness, Julian allowed himself to cry, his tears soaking the pillow. The distance between Julian and Victor grew with each passing day. Elena watched helplessly, her heart torn between her husband and her son. Despite the coldness that pervaded his home life, Julian found comfort in his dreams. He envisioned a future where his efforts were seen, his successes celebrated, and his heart understood. In those dreams, the unyielding house transformed into a home filled with laughter and love. Julian's determination hardened with each disregard from his dad. He decided then, under the cold gaze of his stepfather and the silent tears of his mother, that he would carve out a path for himself, one where his worth wasn't dictated by someone's failure to see his value. In that moment, Julian Sterling, the boy who grew up in a millionaire's family, yet wished for the simplest of joys, decided he would no longer wait for Victor's approval to validate his existence. In the few years that stretched between the turmoil of his youth and the dawn of his professional life, Julian underwent a profound transformation. Julian matured into a man whose ambitions reached far beyond the gilded cage of his upbringing. The morning Julian was assigned to the failed company, the sun seemed to shine a bit brighter. For the first time, Victor had trusted him with a major responsibility, though it was marred by skepticism. 3 months, Julian, turn it around if you can, Victor had said, the challenge clear in his tone. The employees, burdened with overwork and uncertainty, offered Julian cautious looks, their skepticism palpable. "I'm here to make a difference," Julian announced to the staff, his voice steady but his heart racing. He met their stares, seeing a reflection of his own desire for acceptance and success. The days that followed were a blur of meetings, papers, and endless lists of problems. The office was hemorrhaging money. Morale was at an all-time low and the turnover rate was rising. Julian felt the weight of the task bearing down on him, but he was determined not to let it crush him. One evening, as Julian stayed late to pore over financial records, Clara, the cleaner, stopped by his desk. "You're working hard, Mr. Sterling. Can I get you anything?" she asked, her smile a rare glimpse of warmth in the cold office. "Just some company, Clara. I could use a break," Julian answered, grateful for the interruption. As they talked, Julian learned about Clara's background in economics and her break from school. He was struck by her insight into the company's problems and her genuine belief in his ability to turn things around. "You've got a fresh perspective, Julian. Sometimes that's all it takes to change course," Clara encouraged him, her words boosting his belief in himself. Encouraged by Clara's faith in him, Julian implemented new strategies, focused on employee morale and operational efficiency. He worked alongside the staff, listening to their concerns and acting on their ideas. Slowly, the office started to show signs of life. Productivity improved, and for the first time in months, the team met their targets. Julian's method wasn't without resistance. Some old-timers doubted the young man's methods, but Julian's persistence and Clara's unwavering support eventually won them over. 3 months flew by, and the day of truth arrived. Victor Sterling stepped into the office, his keen eyes taking in the subtle but undeniable changes. Julian presented the quarter's results, his voice stronger than it had ever been. "We've turned a profit, Dad. It's modest, but it's a start." Victor's expression, normally so hard to read, softened for a moment. "You've done well, Julian, better than I expected," he admitted, though his praise was grudging. For Julian, that moment was a turning point. He had stepped into the company as the overlooked son, burdened with doubt and low hopes. He emerged as a leader, validated not by Victor's reluctant acknowledgement, but by his own successes and the respect of his team. The subsidiary was more than a business project for Julian. It was a proving ground for his skills and his character. With Clara by his side and a team that believed in him, Julian Sterling was ready to face whatever came next, knowing he'd already surpassed the greatest task of all, believing in himself. As the weeks turned into months, the company that once stood on the brink of collapse began to grow under Julian's guidance. However, the true transformation within Julian wasn't just in numbers and reports. It was in the relationships he built, especially with Clara. Julian had started to depend on Clara's ideas more and more. Her grounded view on economics, coupled with her innate knowledge of people, made her an invaluable partner. Despite her official job as a cleaner, Clara became a confidant to Julian and an unofficial advisor to the team. One late afternoon, Julian found himself having a cup of coffee with Clara after everyone else had left. "You know, Clara," Julian began, his voice holding a hint of respect, "I never thought I'd find someone who understands this place as you do. You're not just part of this team, you're the heart of it." Clara laughed, a sound that seemed too joyous for the poorly lit office. "I'm just doing my part, Julian. Besides, it's your vision that's guiding us. I just help you see it through." Their talks became routine, and the office a backdrop to their growing friendship. Julian found comfort in Clara's company. "So we did it, Clara," he said, the excitement clear in his voice. "We did," she agreed, "but this is just the beginning, Julian. There's so much more we can achieve." That night, as they shared a celebratory dinner with the team, Julian understood how much Clara had become integral to his life. Her presence was a constant source of comfort and encouragement, even when he doubted himself. Their relationship had changed, subtly but significantly. Clara was no longer just the cleaner who had offered him a kind word on his first day. She was a friend, a mentor, and the person who made the office feel a little less like a battlefield and more like a home. In the quiet moments, Julian found himself reflecting on his journey. He had walked into the company determined to prove his worth to Victor, to earn the praise he had craved his entire life. Instead, he found something far more valuable: self-belief and real connections. In Clara, he found not just a colleague in business, but a kindred spirit. As Julian looked towards the future, he knew that the road ahead would be filled with obstacles. But with Clara by his side and a team that had grown to accept and support him, he felt ready to face whatever came next. Yet it was Julian's next challenge that would test his determination and the bonds he had forged, especially with Clara. Victor Sterling, ever the skeptic, saw the company's success not as a culmination, but as a stepping stone to bigger achievements. "You've done well, Julian, but let's see how you handle real pressure," he challenged, setting the stage for what would be Julian's most daunting task yet: securing a relationship with Mr. Hawthorne, a titan in the business world known for his uncompromising standards and acute business acumen. The thought of dealing with Mr. Hawthorne was scary. Julian knew that this was not just about business, it was about showing his worth beyond the walls of the company. Failure was not an option, but success seemed like a distant dream, especially with Mr. Hawthorne's task for dealing with family-oriented businessmen. It was in this whirlwind of apprehension that Julian found comfort in Clara's company. Her calm demeanor and insightful views had become his anchor. When Julian shared his worries about Mr. Hawthorne, Clara listened intently, her eyes reflecting a mix of empathy and determination. "Why not show Mr. Hawthorne who you really are, Julian? Let him see the man who turned a failing company around, who values people over profits. And if he wants to see a family man, then let's give him one," Clara suggested. The plan was clear: to present Clara as Julian's wife, an illusion aimed at fulfilling Mr. Hawthorne's desire for family-oriented business partners. It was a gamble that brought risks, not just professionally but personally, for both Julian and Clara. Yet, in Clara's approving smile, Julian found the courage to agree. In the days leading up to the dinner with Mr. Hawthorne, Julian and Clara rehearsed their parts, their interactions filled with laughter and moments of genuine connection. The situation might have been born out of necessity, but it brought them closer, blurring the lines between pretense and truth. The night of the dinner arrived, a culmination of Julian's dreams and fears. As they neared the restaurant, Julian couldn't help but admire Clara. Dressed in an elegant white pantsuit, she embodied grace and power. Throughout the dinner, Clara was a surprise. She navigated the talk with ease, her wit and charm disarming Mr. Hawthorne's initial skepticism. Julian watched in awe as Clara subtly steered the discussion towards the company's achievements, highlighting Julian's part without overshadowing him. When Mr. Hawthorne inquired about Clara's role in the business, she responded with a humility that belied her influence. "I'm just the support behind the scenes, ensuring Julian can focus on what he does best." The evening, much to Julian's surprise, was a success. Mr. Hawthorne, impressed by the young couple's dynamic, agreed to the partnership. As they left the restaurant, a feeling of accomplishment enveloped Julian. The partnership was a major victory, but more importantly, the evening had revealed the depth of his connection with Clara. She had stood by him, not as a mere participant in a ruse, but as a true partner. Driving back, Julian understood that the night had changed something fundamental between them. What started as a strategy had grown into a realization of mutual respect and affection. Clara had become more than a friend or colleague. She was someone Julian could imagine a future with, both in and out of the boardroom. The challenge set by Victor had led Julian to a partnership with Mr. Hawthorne, but more crucially, it had brought him closer to Clara. In an attempt to prove his worth, Julian had found a partnership that crossed business. The partnership with Mr. Hawthorne was not just a business win for Julian, it was a turning point in his personal life as well. The success had filled the company with a fresh energy, and Julian's guidance was now beyond reproach. Yet, the most profound change was within Julian himself, catalyzed by the unassuming yet formidable Clara. In the wake of their victory, Julian found himself at a crossroads. The facade of marriage to Clara for the sake of the deal had illuminated a truth he could no longer ignore. His feelings for her surpassed friendship or mere gratitude. Clara, with her resilience, intellect and compassion, had become essential to him, not just professionally but personally. Victor Sterling, witnessing his son's ascent from the sidelines, was forced to face his own prejudices and the harshness with which he had treated Julian. The success with Mr. Hawthorne, while a testament to Julian's capabilities, also highlighted the emotional gap Victor had made within his family. One morning, as the golden hues of dawn bathed the Sterling estate in a soft light, Victor sought Julian out, finding him in the study that had once been the heart of their strained relationship. The air was thick with suspense as Victor started a conversation that would alter the course of their relationship. "Julian, I've been a fool," Victor began, his voice laden with a new fragility. "Your success, your character, they've shown me the error of my ways. I was wrong to doubt you, to treat you with such coldness." Julian, taken aback by this admission, tried to find the words. The recognition he had longed for his entire life was finally being offered, yet it was Clara's influence that allowed him to accept it with grace. "Dad, it's okay. I've learned a lot about myself, about us. Clara helped me see that holding on to resentment helps no one. We can start anew if you're willing," Julian replied, extending an olive branch forged from understanding and compassion. Amidst these emotional revelations, Julian's relationship with Clara thrived. Inspired by their shared experiences and the depth of their connection, Julian approached Clara with a proposal that was no longer a scheme, but a heartfelt desire. "Clara, these past months have shown me that life is unpredictable, but what's clear is that I want you by my side, not just as a partner in business, but in life. Will you marry me, for real this time?" Julian asked, his voice steady but imbued with emotion. Clara, her eyes reflecting the trip they had made together, responded with a joyous affirmation. Their relationship, born out of necessity, had evolved into the power of genuine connection. The wedding was a simple affair, a celebration of love and new start. Victor, witnessing the union, felt a sense of peace and fulfillment, thankful for the chance to mend fences and embrace Clara as a beloved member of the family. In the years that followed, the company continued to grow under Julian's leadership. With Clara by his side both in business and in life, their story, a lesson that it's never too late to change the narrative of one's life. In the end, the Sterling estate, once a symbol of Julian's isolation, became a home filled with laughter, love, and the promise of endless potential. If you loved the story, tell us in the comments. How was the encounter with your first love? And what's the one piece of advice you would share to the younger generation? Thanks for watching. Until next time.